big screen is? Did we check that?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Dan.
And my name is Suzie, and together we're Duzie. And welcome to Tuesday webinar.
Hello, Megan. Good morning. How are things in Britain today?
Megan, you're on early. Welcome. When you come on, those of you who are signing in, when you get in, if you don't mind, just sign your name and give us a message where you're coming from.
We've had a very good week this week. Spent a lot of time reflecting on the rhythms and how to launch our life with our rhythms. Had a lot of good questions coming in from people throughout the week. We're going to hit those today. A lot more information. We're hoping to take about 1 hour, and then we can stick around after that to dialogue more questions. If this time is yours.
If you're on and this time is humming and you feel like you have some more questions, if you want to come in, if you want to put your voice up and say something, we are available for that.
Yeah, Guten Morgen, Hannah. Coming in from Munich. Welcome.
Where can you see Munich? Oh, there you go.
Munich, right there.
Yeah, awesome. Welcome.
And Dave Taylor is on. He'll come on in a little bit. He's coming in from England as well.
Yeah, so far we have Megan in England, Britain, and we have Hannah in Munich. And then
David in England. They've got a couple more on. We're just waiting for people to please sign in your name and where you're coming from.
Okay, so David Taylor is on to help us moderate and make sure that we get our questions answered and we don't miss any of your comments.
Hi, Katie, coming in from France. Welcome back.
Hi, Katie. Welcome back. You're the hero. You've got 3 webinars under your belt.
2 weeks, and you've already gone to 3 of them. Well done.
Go, girl. Thank you so much for joining us again.
While you're joining, we're going to post the first poll. So as people are coming on, we're going to just post a poll as we get ready. I think we have everything loaded up and ready for this week. So the first poll.
Yep, that's the one.
First poll is here. Take a moment, if you would, as you're coming in, to look at which statement best describes you.
So this is all about completion and how much you've done so far in the modules. The first one is I have completed all of the modules up to this point. So far we had pre-launch sequence, module 1, and that was all about your fully alive Zoe, and module 2 is land your rhythms. And then the second question is...
I'll go right back to it. I think I just changed it.
Did you? Okay. The second statement that potentially identifies you, I have completed module 1, up to module 1, and I'm now working on module 2. It just came out a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. So we realized that there's many of you that won't have finished the whole entire thing.
But there's actually quite a few on 3 that we've heard that they have completed parts of both modules. So, and that's good. This is not like, 8th grade science class where you have to do everything like the rest of the class. This is for you.
Take it at your pace. We're just curious how far you've gone. And then the third or the fourth option there is I'm just getting started. We had a number of people that just signed in over the weekend. So they will have just come on and they're
about
just
50
learning.
Over the last week.
Yep. So we have people who are just getting started, and you are also welcome. And you are very welcome to come on here and join our community and have a chat about what's going on and what's it looking like in your life.
I would love to have a little bit of feedback. Make sure the sound level is good. You can hear us okay, because one of our sessions last week, we started off, we thought we were doing well, but people weren't hearing. And then some people lost the audio at the end of one of our broadcasts. So make sure if you can hear us fine, type that in as well.
Type us in if you can see and hear okay. Give us a little
not only just see and hear, if you can walk, if you can dance, those things that we were talking about.
Yeah, sure. That would be fine too.
If you're living your rhythms.
You're living your rhythms and you're on with us. That's awesome.
So I thought it'd be great. One of the things that someone was asking this week was, would you help define again what rhythms are? Because they were asking questions like, is a rhythm the same thing as a ritual? Is a rhythm
The same as a
a
habit.
habit? Is the same. And the definition we've been using, I'm just gonna post it up there for a moment so we can dialogue on it.
I think you can see us down the bottom in the screen.
Hopefully you can. But we're looking at a rhythm as a pattern marked by an intentional movement or procedure. Susie, do you want to unpack that a little bit?
Sure.
What does that mean?
When we're talking about a rhythm, it can be like a musical rhythm that has beat that's in sync or not. But when we're specifically speaking about a rhythm, we're talking about your Zoe life. Last week, we focused on trying to help you analyze who am I and what are some of the things that allow me to be fully alive. We talked about investing in yourself and growing yourself, especially so that you can be the best version that God created you to be. And then M is multiplying naturally. We're fruitful. When we're fruitful, when we're living in the Spirit, we're living in the power of the Spirit that God created us in. We have this Zoe life. So then when we're talking about rhythms, this is the pattern or the rhythms, and we really identified 4, but there are so many more that we can be intentional in, and that's in our mind, our body, our spirit, our creative. We can be intentional in all those areas, putting rhythms, actions, and I think the key word here is intentional. That we are making habits just happen. Sometimes we start intentional rhythms that become habits in our life, but there are some very important Zoe life patterns, rhythms that I have that never become a habit. They never become automatic. I always have to be very on top of things, especially for me in my mind.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about, I'll be talking about my mind and reminding us of a few things a little bit later in this program.
It's interesting where we're sitting right now. This is our living room. And as I look at Susie, my congas are just right there.
Just a little out of reach over here.
And when I think of a rhythm, I think of the pattern that I lay down when I'm doing the congas, and it's very intentional. And from time, I'll drop the third beat, I'll add the fourth or a 4 and. But it's definitely a procedure. It's definitely a movement. It's the same thing
intentional
in our life.
You put those
Right.
hands down.
If I was playing and only hit one note or one beat every 2 or 3 days, no one would know there's a tune going on. So it has to be this ongoing pattern, and the same thing in our life. And we'll be looking at a little bit of that more. So if you have any questions dealing with the definition, we can also look at that. We want to bring Dave Taylor on as well. Dave's going to be our moderator and helping us look at some of the questions. We notice as we go through, sometimes we're not looking over always at the questions are up there. So we've asked David to come in and be seeing some of those. How are you doing today, David?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's so good to be here with you guys. Looking forward to it. Here in afternoon England, and looking forward to getting plugged in on how to land our rhythms.
Yeah.
Great. So David, for those people who don't know you, maybe say a little bit about you. Who are you? Maybe tell us a little bit about your rhythms that are important to you.
Yeah, so I'm a 27-year-old white English male who lives in England at the moment. I spent 2 years on a ship, and I've had the privilege of going to 39 different countries in my life, which is quite crazy. And important rhythms for me, I think they're bookmarked at each end of the day. I start my day exercising, and I end my day writing in my journal, which I've done for over 1.5 years now.
And what effect do you feel like these rhythms have had in you?
If I'm exercising, if that's a rhythm that I do, I feel better. I'm more energized. I'm thinking better. It's an achievement I have first thing in the day. Doesn't matter what happens in the rest of the day. That's really good. And the journal at the end of the day is just a really amazing, reflective moment to help me live on purpose, to see what's happened today and what's going to help me remember and work forward to the future.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Also want to welcome Mark. Thank you for being our hair consultant this morning, Mark. My hair looks good.
I never comb my hair, so that's not really going to help. These are my combs.
I don't either.
I'm like Ariel. I guess Ariel used a fork, but I just use my fingers. Yeah, and whatever happens to the hair happens to the hair. So this is my hair of the day.
It's looking good. It's looking good.
Thank you very much.
It's interesting because I don't know if you know this, but she's dyed her hair. I'm not supposed to say that, but it's a small group. It's an intimate group. But when we go different places,
this is my life color.
Yeah, the light in like we'll be out walking and it'll be sunshine and it's just like it's like whoa, what happened? And it'll be someplace else. It's a different color. So it's like this. It's like a. I don't know if you remember the old mood rings. Maybe it's a woo according to how she's feeling. I don't know.
I'm feeling great today. Thanks for asking. I don't know who's asking, but yeah, thanks, Mark, for the hair joke. Yeah, a lot of times, especially people who don't know me, we're used to it now. But as we're walking by, Dan says to me, "Do you know that?" I forget, but they're staring at your hair.
I always wonder what they're looking at.
And I think when I look in the mirror, I see photos of me. It's superhero color. So I'm just in my superhero rhythm going here, at least going for that. My fully alive hair.
So we're gonna jump into Land Your Rhythms a little bit more. As we talk about these things, anytime you can type in a question, a comment, an emotional outburst, your PIN number for your bank account. Doesn't matter. You can type anything in. And David will find those things. And at break times throughout, we're going to be looking at those and answering. If you type in a specific question you want us to deal with, there's a little button to the side that you can push. And I think it's a red light.
It's underneath the chat. You can make a comment or you can make a question. I think that is how we understand it on your end. So thank you, Hannah, for your comment on my hair. We'll just carry on with the hair jokes.
So we're gonna jump into just looking at mind, body, spirit, and creative. And Suzie, why don't you take away the whole idea? Dealing with the mind.
Okay, so I'm just throwing up some slides here. Many of these you have seen or you soon will see it if you haven't quite finished the whole course yet. But there's 4 areas if you're going to land your rhythms that will help you grow your Zoe rhythms. And the first is the mind. And the important concept to think of here is what you feed will grow. I have plants, and you know this is one of the things that really gives me life. And yesterday, we moved all of our plants to the bathroom because our bathroom gets the most light.
Now, I can't tell you all the plants went to the bathroom because that would have filled the bathroom. But there were several that needed extra light.
Right. Okay. So we needed to grow and to feed. So I took my plants in there. I made sure that they had the nutrients they needed, and I gave them extra water. And I've been watching them. Excuse me. We did that yesterday. And already this morning, the growth of these plants is making a difference. And so nature has great pictures for me, especially in the mind. And I want to just show you some of the, push this next here. Just want to show you some of these slides. You've seen some of these. One of the very important parts of the mind is what's called limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs is what we learned about in coaching. These are beliefs that you have that when we're thinking about intentional mind rhythms, we have beliefs that have been handed to us, for example, from our upbringing, from our families, our dynamics of where we grew up. Many of us, we have beliefs from people that we went to school with, best friends,
teachers.
And these are just beliefs that we believe. Also within our culture, we have beliefs that come from our culture. I was doing a study yesterday, and they talked about people who live in, for example, Africa, will have different beliefs than people who live in other parts of the world because the culture says this is what is important. This is what's reinforced. But some of our beliefs become what we call limiting. They take us to this point, and then we get, should we say, stuck, or we get limited, that don't allow us to live fully alive. And one of the things that, as we were processing in our debrief, but also when we first started coaching, we found limiting beliefs. So one of our beliefs that we're really trying to move out of is we can have a scarcity mindset, or we can have a very a blessed and immeasurably more belief or mindset. And we're trying to go for the immeasurably
more. The scarcity
more.
is much more of we don't have enough. How can we pay our bills?
How can we hoard?
We can't do that. And you sort of be very, you're defending yourself. And lately you've been calling it out because we're like, oh, but what are we? Wait, that's a scarcity mentality. Why don't we move? The prayer that God's given us is, Lord, would you bless us, enlarge our territory, lay your hand upon us, and keep us from harm. That's our prayer.
This is the prayer of Jabez.
So why would we move to, but we're nothing when we're actually children of the King? So we're trying to change the limiting beliefs into liberty beliefs,
That's
being
right.
fully alive.
That's right. And the other belief is that our theme for this year is courageous imagination. And so we're trying to be courageous and to go for it and to imagine, and that has a lot to do with faith. We were talking a lot about character and our character, and it starts with the thoughts. And if you've had a chance to go through this worksheet, very important, what are some of your thoughts? And important is your echoing thoughts, or those thoughts that are repeatedly going through your mind. Those are like a small seed that grows into a large character tree. And those thoughts move into feelings, attitudes, words, actions, habits. And your character is really significant, based all the way back to your thoughts. And this is why rhythms of your mind are very important. Romans 12:2. If you, for example, are noticing the words, I was noticing that yesterday. I was having negative words come out first instead of blessing words and instead of positivity. And I took it back to my thoughts, and I was capturing my thoughts. And that is the verse. Also from this I Am Enough worksheet, for those of you who don't know if you can show up, or you don't know if you're enough or you have enough. This worksheet is really good. What are your 3 unique action steps to allow yourself to live fully alive? Really based in love from God and others, to believe that what you have is enough and not have to compare. And so you show up and you risk instead of fear. And that's one of our motivators that we're going to talk about in just a little bit.
So Suzie got this decal or this poster for the wall this week that goes in her kitchen above the door, and it's B and then .U to full, so that when she walks out of her kitchen, it's BU to full.
So I want to really
that's cool.
That's my mindset. So it really helps me to post things. It posts things on the wall, on my mirror, above my mirror, in regular places where I see them. And this is one that's really encouraging me to be myself, be you, and let that be from the inside out. Make that be beautiful.
So David, I'm going to ask you to come back on and maybe lead us in a couple questions dealing with the mind.
All right.
Hello?
Go for it.
Yes. So we have a fantastic question here from Hannah, asking if the effect that gender has maybe on limiting beliefs. So it'd be great to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay.
Well, I've only been one gender in my life,
And I've
so
only been
I'm
one.
very limited to one gender.
Is this a limiting belief?
I think there are. I think there are stereotypes from our culture. I think there are definitely the world is different today than when I was younger, what men and women are allowed to do. So I think people hold that over. There's the mental study, the mind study, the brain study, I guess so it is, that men and women process differently. So if something happens. Just a couple days ago, Susie and I had this moment of total disconnection. It was like we were on two different pages. And the way
could have been two planets.
Two different planets.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen very often, but we got there. And we actually started talking about it's going to take me as a man probably 90 minutes to get past this, where it'll take Susie 12 hours because of the way the brain is actually wired. So I think there are some actual differences for sure in the brain, but I think the limiting beliefs are the story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure if it has as much to do with gender. Right.
Yeah. Hannah, great question there as well. And what Dan's talking about, there's a doctor, she comes from South Africa. Her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf, Leaf. And if you want to learn more about the mind, I've studied and taken her courses. And this is one of the things that they found scientifically, that when we have a highly emotional experience, it takes guys only about 90 minutes generally to process those toxins, those chemicals that are released. They go through our body to gear us up for a fight, for a flight. These are natural bodily responses. And it only takes 90 minutes for those to go through the body. But for a woman, it can take up to 12 hours. Yeah. So many times Dan will be like, just get over it. And I'll be like, yeah, well,
I
your
don't
body,
say just get over it.
He has
I think it though.
He has that process where it's easier for him. And so he thinks I have the same. And in that way, it takes me a little bit longer. And many times I have to sleep on it to be reset, to be refreshed.
We know it's really big when we wake up in the morning. She says, we were talking about yesterday. And I'm like, I have no clue, but it's still there for her that we have to back up.
And one of the things that helps is hydrating. So we've been trying to drink a lot of water. We've been trying to exercise. Those also help clear out toxins.
Oh, so you want to have something really funny. You're supposed to, on this cleanse we were doing, you're supposed to have, is it ounces? You have to say how much you weigh. You go half of that in ounces. And I totally miscalculated. So I'm supposed to have like 7 glasses like this per day. I was downing 14. I was getting my exercise by going to the bathroom until Susie says, you have miscalculated. So I'm very glad about the miscalculation. That was not a limiting belief. That was a lead to the bathroom belief.
Yeah, Hannah, thank you for that. I know that stress is also a really, it's one of the highest issues that the next generation faces, stress and anxiety.
94% of all young people say they deal with anxiety every day.
And I think long ago, it used to be that more women in the studies experienced that. But in these days, the men and the women are quite equal as far as that's concerned.
We had another question there?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a follow-up one on the gender, like obviously male and female, but especially in the UK, maybe people identify otherwise or non-specific, if that maybe has any potential impact.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure every choice we make, every feeling we have, every group that we hang around with affects our beliefs. They can limit us, but they also can move us forward. You hanging around a group that is moving forward, believing everything's possible, you're going to be moving in that direction. So I'm not sure how all the gender stuff and what you qualify yourself as. I don't know that. It'd be a very interesting study to look at beliefs based on gender, beliefs based on that whole area. But that is not something that I'm sure it is.
I'll make myself a note to have a look at that.
A fascinating study, but. I think that the key here we want to really look at is your beliefs, your mind really determine if you're going to lay down those intentional rhythms or not. You'll either say, I'm going for it no matter what, or you will stop saying, well, I didn't do the last thing either. And that's all a mind issue when it comes to landing your rhythms.
David, any nuggets from you?
I was just going to say, so thank you, Megan, for that question. Yeah, and I suppose a question from me is, what was one of a mental habit each of you have? Or sorry, a mental rhythm, and what makes it that rhythm?
Yeah. A mental rhythm I have, I think I have several. I'm always thinking. I'm a real deep thinker,
Yes.
and I'll be sitting. I write quotes all the time. I write my own quotes. I write other people's quotes, and so it's a mental rhythm that it is like. We were just watching the Aeronauts, a movie, The Aeronauts, amazing movie. And I'm sitting there watching, and all of a sudden they say something, and this drives me crazy in the movie theater because I can't write it down. And but at my own home, I can write it down.
Pause, get out the black book.
So a mental rhythm is I want to hear what people are saying. I think all truth is God's truth, no matter where it comes from. And there are bits and pieces that are just hanging on the tree, and I want to reach up and grab them. So a mental rhythm for me is I'm always listening for that nugget. And in trying, if I wait more than 5 minutes to write it down, the nugget's gone. And so that's a mental rhythm for me.
I think a mental rhythm for me lately, especially into this year, as we're trying to think about having courageous imagination, for me is to have those positive spiraling up thoughts. So I'm trying to, first of all, take it through the filter of being thankful, being grateful, and sharing a positive thing first. We're very full on creating this course and resources. And so many times Dan will say something and I'll be out with like the second or third thought. And so one of my mental rhythms is to try to put out the positive first. Say, wow, that was great. That's a great idea. Or this happened well. So I'm trying to like have my words be those positive words, so that can grow into my reinforcement of my gratitude and my positive perspective.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that as a couple. There were a couple ideas I had. I thought they were amazing.
They were.
And she started off with but, rather than saying first, wow, and then into the but. And so we talked about how we need to be people that are supporting and then coming with the buts.
Yeah, that's right. Megan's got something there. You want to read it, David, or you want me to go for
just
it?
Synopsis.
So a synopsis, like how it's been a brilliant course, but there's been a few like challenges as well. To think the rhythms cage us in, and maybe that would cause us to flee. And what would be a response to that?
All right. In my studies of motivation, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, I came across a study on free spirits. And Megan, I know you, and I know you're a free spirit. That's a beautiful bit about you. And and I think that speaks to the being caged in. And I definitely don't want to be caged in. You cage me in, I'm claustrophobic. You're going to get the wild Suzie coming out. So I think that's not a very good thing. That concept as well. I have a cage collection, but I don't want things to be caged in. I like the doors open. And I think for me, when we land the rhythms, I find that my rhythms give me much, much more freedoms because I'm being intentional about the things that I'm focusing on, and the things especially that give me life and allow me to bring glory to God and be the best version of myself. But those foundational rhythms that I set in, the things that I start, my morning rhythms and my eating rhythms and my exercise rhythms and our creative rhythms, like we're talking about, those actually give me so much more freedom. So I know it's like an oxymoron, like how can this be and this be? But when we put the first things first and we put our big rocks in, we have an illustration where we take a big jar and you put rocks in, and you have rocks and sand and water. If you put the water in first and then you try to fit the rocks and the sand in later, you can't always fit the same amount in. But if you put the rocks in first, the big priorities, the things that you want to be intentional about, that you want to prioritize, those go in first, and then you fill the rest of the time with what is appropriate or what you have time for. And for me personally, that gives me so much more freedom.
I think all of us live in cages. I think, who was it? Someone has said something about insanity is living without boundaries. We have, that's what culture is. And that's what religion is. All these things are boundaries that we allow ourselves to put around. The danger, I think, and maybe this is a little more where Megan's coming from, is do you have to be Dan and Suzie? Absolutely not. The things that we are learning, we're several years ahead. We're at a different climate in our life. And so the things we are putting around is from the experiences we've had. It's a wonderful thing to listen to stories of people, but you don't necessarily want to have that story. You want to learn from their experience. But I would hope no one goes through this course and says, oh, these are the things that Dan and Suzie do, so I have to do those. These are the things that we have learned that give us life. And hopefully that throws out, this is a big world. What are you going to find that gives life? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the course.
Yeah, Megan, you're talking about freedom. Jesus, well, in Ephesians, I believe it says, it is for freedom that Christ set us free. So be free. Don't let yourselves be bound again by the yoke of slavery. And we have a whole theme that we've done in the past on freedom. And I think that's really important. It is for freedom that Christ set us free, and he wants us to be free, not in cages.
And I think that's one of the interesting things, just living here in Georgia and visiting our kids in Seattle. They're two different worlds. And you hang around people here and you get this mentality. You go out there, it's a very different mentality. That's very healthy. And I think if we just are around the same people all the time, we'll probably miss the fact that there are bigger cages that we can live in.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have one more and then we're going to jump into body and we'll just hit that really quick.
Yeah,
anything else?
The conversation's really getting going now. People are really engaging with it. I think the freedom part is resonating with a lot of people. How it's easy to fall into unhealthy rhythms if we're not intentional about setting those life-giving freedoms and rhythms. So I think that's the part that's really resonating with people and finding how do we thrive in these environments.
It's good. I keep those comments going there. I'm going to jump over to body and just hit this very quickly. And we don't need to go in deep, but I got two slides. And the first one is basically for me, my body rhythms. What is it and how do I do it? And again, Megan, that was a beautiful question as we go into this, because not everyone's going to have the same body rhythms, just like not everybody has the same mind rhythms. So for me, I want to exercise by walking 10,000 steps every day. I started with a Fitbit. I now have an Apple Watch. They help me. They remind me. Like as soon as I'm done here, I'll check. Oh man, I got to get up and take a little walk. So my what is exercise 10,000 steps a day. But my watch is how I am reminded to do that.
Of your body rhythms.
Of my body rhythms.
Yeah, that you are intentionally
I've chosen.
Trying to make happen. Yeah.
Suzie talked about already 7 glasses of water a day. I actually have 2 reminders. I have a glass. This glass right here in my hand.
And this glass here, we try to do big ones.
I don't wash this every time I take a drink. I have a place in my kitchen where I set this. And every time I walk in the kitchen, it's sitting there. And if it's full, I drink it. If it's empty, I fill it and drink it. And then on the side of the refrigerator, we keep 1 glass, 2 glass, 3 glass. And I asked Suzie, have you drank? Here's a glass. She does that for me. So those are some ways that we keep the rhythms. Sleeping 8 hours a night. That is the best for Suzie and I, especially for Suzie. I can go with a little bit less. And I'm a night person. I easily 2, 3 in the morning, I could still be going strong. And
he gets going strong at night.
I've had to set an alarm that when that goes off, it's time to stop and go to bed. And we're trying to go 11 till 7. Last night, it was like 12:30 because we're getting ready for this. I woke up a little earlier to set everything up. But normally that's a body rhythm that I know is going to be better for me. And the last area I've just written down is to stand 5 minutes every hour. And you may see me in a little bit just standing up here because I have to get 12 standing hours. My watch here is making me do that. And so I want to have that. And so my watch again reminds me of those things, those body rhythms. So I wanted to ask you, what is one body rhythm? And I'd love you to type it in. What's one body rhythm you want to have or that you do have? And what is it that reminds you to do that rhythm?
So what and how?
Right. So what is one rhythm? So a rhythm, maybe you make your bed in the morning. What reminds you of that? Well, you come out of the shower, you look at your bed, it's all ruffled about, and you make it. So you're reminded by seeing the bed that's not made. So we'll go back to some questions now dealing with body rhythms. What is one of yours, and how are you reminded of that?
So one of my body rhythms that I've started in the new year, and I'm 5 for 5 so far, is that we've done this 10,000 steps for a while, and that's awesome. And I feel great when I do 10,000 steps, and I feel it when I don't. But for me, I'm also adding, I have a stability ball. It's a big round ball that I do exercises on, and it's really mainly for the core. So I'm trying to strengthen my core, my middle part, my back, my sides, my front. And I've been trying to do that after I wake up in the morning. I drink a great glass of water, one of these big ones, and then I do my exercise. I try to do that right off because that sets my mind. David Taylor, who's with us here, he talked about he gets up and he exercises for an hour every morning. And I thought that would give me a good, that would be good for my brain. That'll be good for my body. That is good for my spirit as well. It really is a very multiple goal. So that's one of mine.
David, if you want to come back, that would be great. I'm seeing this one by Megan. Bring us in on that question.
Well, I mean, Megan's comment there is, I have a lot of bad rhythms.
I think that is, I've been thinking about that a lot. Actually, David and I have been talking about this throughout the weeks. I love you, Megan. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I know I have good habits and I have bad habits. And many times those bad habits are things that I just intentionally do because of a lifetime of, okay, I didn't pick up my socks and I wasn't even thinking about that kind of thing. But when I think of a rhythm, I go back to the congas again, and I intentionally put my hand there. And I may have come to a place where my rhythm is off, and that's true. But it's intentionally, I'm the one that no one else put my hand on the drum. And so that's one thing I'm walking in my life is my habits can be good or bad, but my rhythms are either in sync with my values or they're not in sync with my values. And the only thing that makes a rhythm bad is when they are, there's this one guy that asked me to play the congas when he's playing the piano. And he goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And it's just the worst thing in the world to play rhythm with him. And I think it's the same way because it does not go with the pattern that I have set in my life. So again, I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking they're bad, but when it comes to a rhythm, no one sets a rhythm for us. And so we have to, and maybe it's bad because it doesn't honor a value. And next week we're going to be looking at values, but I still, and again, disagree. But it to me, my rhythms are I lay them down, and I'm disciplined in some things, and other things I'm not. But if I'm playing the drums and that beat is not, I back it off and I go on a lighter beat. And so in my mind, I don't have an answer, yes or no, but it's in my life, I'm trying to say what are the rhythms, not that are good or bad, but what are the rhythms that are in sync with my values.
Well, awesome. And Megan's just said she's really appreciative of that comment, Dan, and brought a lot of good insight there. Katie's mentioned how there's a lot of new rhythms have come because she's just moved, and she's used that as like a check mark to take a walk outside every day, and maybe some exercise things. So maybe you could speak into that.
Let me just tell you, when Joshua, our oldest son, was younger, he had a dummy. I think that's what you call them.
Binky.
A binky.
Yeah. Pacifier.
Whatever. No thumb, this plastic thing in his mouth. And we lived in this house, and it was in the drawer right next to the sink. And he would go open the drawer, take it out, and we thought, how in the world?
He was about 3.
Right. How in the world are we going to get this thing away from him? And when we moved, there was no drawer there. And he would come in for the first day or two, and there's no drawer. And we never had to discuss this.
We didn't let it show up. He
just started a new pattern. And I believe, Katie, that one of the best times to change your rhythms is when you move, when you make a life change.
A transition of any sort is a good time.
It's beautiful. And that's what I love about 2020. This is a new decade. We've never been here before. And for people, I believe, around the world, this is a new start. And I think that's the time to launch new rhythms.
One of the studies that I've done recently is this statistic comes from Statistic Brain Research Institute. So here we go. It says, consider this: 41% of people regularly make New Year's resolutions. Now we're talking about rhythms. It's a little bit different, but I think some of these concepts applies. But only 9% of them actually achieve them. And so we were talking last week about how to stay motivated. Like, these are great concepts, but how do we put them into place and make sure they happen? And a couple more of the studies say that we need to create attainable goals with solid plans of how to achieve them. And the studies say that it's best to set smaller steps. Like, if you have a big goal, then you break it down into small steps so that you can accomplish a little bit challenging, but a little bit beyond. Very important that the goals are what we call SMART goals. So they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable or attainable, they're realistic, you really can do it, and they're timed. And in one of our handout resources, we have a little phrase for that as well. But the other thing is the goals that people actually end up doing, they're the small step goals that have a direct action plan so that they would be SMART. And the second one is they have support structures in place.
Very important.
And I think that's one of the things we're trying to do here with this course and our Fully Alive community is to support one another. And these are some of the support structures, but we're also encouraging you to go through this course with a friend. And we believe that that friend structure is going to be something when you make a decision that you find is really good for your Fully Alive self, that you have somebody that's checking in on you. And Dan and I are very blessed to have that for each other.
Mm-hmm. And I just look at the comment about aloneness, and part of that may be personality as well. Suzie, everything she learns, I hear about.
I'm sorry.
And everything I learn, she has to ask about. So it's different there as well. But I would agree with Suzie that if you're launching a rhythm, invite someone into that process, even some long distance, to ask the question. When we first started journaling, we had people asking what day we're on, because we wanted to go 30 days and then 90 days and then 365 days. And we had people in our world that would just ask us, what day are you on? And we would be able to say, I'm on 102, because they helped supported that new rhythm in our life.
Yeah. So
it looks like we've got only about 15 minutes left, and we'll keep going. But I'm thinking maybe we move away from the spirit creative and spend a little time looking at set, maintain, and grow.
Sure.
Is that all right if we jump into that?
Yeah, let's go for that.
I made a little video yesterday, so you can sit back for 2 minutes, and you can hopefully enjoy setting, maintaining, and growing your life rhythms. All right, I think we're back. I'd love to have some thoughts on the process there of setting, maintaining, and growing your life rhythms.
Bye, Mark. Thanks for joining us. God bless you. Thanks for signing out.
Yeah, that's important. I think when you come in, put your name there, put your where you're from, and when you leave, please let us know as well, because I don't want to be talking to you if you're not there.
So what did you guys see from that little reminder video? I love when Dan does those whiteboard presentations. Good job, Dan. Bravo. Yeah, we've got that. And basically, there are
By the way, if you want to look at that again, you can watch the replay of this, but it's also on Duzie Potter YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Under resources. So
if Katie, you were talking about moving to a new space and trying to find your new rhythms. That's very important. That's awesome. So there's a resource, how to find new rhythms. So you can read that and process through that and apply that. And then there's a second resource that Dan created with a number of 100. Is it 100?
I think it's actually 107.
Yeah, it's more than 100 rhythms that might just trigger you to choose some rhythms that you feel would be really good to promote your fully alive Zoe life.
And in the process of setting them, make sure you set the important ones first.
Right.
It just helps. But don't go for the ones that are almost impossible. You want to build your successes. So start with ones that are going to challenge you, but push you a little bit, but you can make it, because what you can do then is you look back and you can see that the successes of your journey, rather than, oh, I failed at that. Oh, I failed at that. Oh, I failed. A cycle of failure, it will come back to the mental rhythm and just stop you in your tracks. So you want to make sure that you put in some rhythms that you actually can do. Drinking a glass of water every hour. That's something you can do. And once you've done that for a week or so, you look back and go, wow, I actually accomplished something that is a good rhythm.
Yeah. So Katie, what's the waffle maker rhythm? Thanks for asking. We got a waffle maker when we were first married. And so we irregularly used it. And then when we were on the Logos Hope for the last 2 years, we were able to get a waffle maker delivered to us from Europe, because it's 220 power there. And so the waffle rhythm for us became a rhythm on Monday mornings. Monday was our day off. So every Monday morning, we would have waffles. So we would sleep as long as we could to catch up on our sleep. And then we would have waffles. We would relax. We would have a catch up time. And that just has it's been significant for us to have that waffle rhythm. Yesterday, we had the privilege of having one of my girls, Abby, and her friend over for waffles. And the waffles just represent good food. I always feel amazing after I eat
She has her own recipe.
My healthy oat gluten-free waffles with chia seeds and flaxseed and honey and bananas, and it's super yummy. But it also just represents extra amount of quality time and hanging out. And so when we have what we call a waffle party, that's our rhythm. That
when the waffle iron
life
comes out, it's a party day.
Yeah,
it just is.
It's just,
and we do it often.
Yeah.
David, are you still there?
I am still here. Yes, I'm still here.
Good.
All right. I also just want to presentations. Where's our presentations? Down here. Okay. I also just want to remind us in this. Do we have the one about our future self or no?
It was there, but I don't see it now.
I do not see it as well. I just wanted to remind us about our mission statement. We want to live fully alive. And then our future self. What will our future self look like as we're living our rhythms? I think that's really important for us, because trying to have a goal, and one of the things that help us maintain that goal is to visualize it and keep it in front of our face. I think this is why we put out these challenges to post it someplace or put it on as a reminder on your phone. Okay, so
it's on my phone. The mission for the week.
The mission for the week. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to land your rhythms so that I will grow my fully alive life. And then the future self is, I am intentionally growing my Zoe life through my rhythms. So maybe you can see that there. And very important that's our future self is. We're growing our Zoe life as a result of these rhythms. These are not to cage us in, but they're to give us the freedom of living more freely as the person that God created us to be.
So we have about 7 minutes left. Any questions that we haven't hit? We've got one more poll that we'll throw up just as we are coming to an end here. Again, we can stay on longer. We're going to end the first poll.
Okay, 50% of you have completed all the modules and 50% of you are working into module 2. So great, half and half. Thank you for that.
Yeah, let's see if the other one is there still.
This question is about time for this Q's Day. And we want to hear from you who are currently on live with us. We also want to hear from those who are not live with us because we're just checking the time. So wondering if this time or one of these 3 times is great, or if some of you would prefer an hour earlier or an hour later.
So if you'd fill that out, that would be helpful.
So Dan Suzie, we have a really interesting question here from Katie about rhythms as an individual and rhythms as a group, as a whole group. When is it appropriate to set them? Who maybe has the right to choose them? So maybe explore what group rhythms might look like.
Sure.
Ooh, nice one.
This is great. One of the research, I love to research. So I've been in amazing mode this week, just researching. Thank you, Megan, for all of your motivation questions.
While she's answering this, I'm going to stand up and get my standing points.
Good for you. I think it's really important to think about your own personal rhythms, but especially in the workplace, or if you're in a church group or you have a life group or an accountability group, it's also really important to have rhythms as a group. And one of the things to think about is that you want to have the end point be the same. You want to have the same goals. Hopefully you have very similar values. We're talking about this next week. But who has the right to? If you have a good leader of your group leader, and depending on the type of leadership this supervisor leader has, it's going to enable the group to bring forth the ideas and the comments, and it could be set by the group as a whole. For example, if you have a very casual friend group, you can make goals together, like we want to be active in things we do, or we want to choose healthy eating options, or maybe like once a month we can do those things that are maybe not healthy for us, but we shouldn't have it every time. And so as a group, you could talk about what kind of rhythms, what time you gather. We used to have small groups gathering every Sunday night in our home for teenagers, and they would come, and many of them said they really enjoyed coming, but they really liked the food. So we instilled a rhythm of having food and quality snacks and sometimes pizza. So we made it a rhythm to eat together while we were having our group time, because Acts 2:42 says that they met together daily for, help me out, the reading of the scriptures, prayer, breaking of the bread, fellowship. And fellowship. And they felt like we weren't breaking bread or we weren't actually having the food. So we added that rhythm in. And that came from the group itself. So that's a very informal group. And we really wanted to listen and make the rhythms that were really important. They also didn't have a gathering place in the week. And so they asked if they could hang out for a while. And so they wanted to have a rhythm for us to do our study and our formal time of group gathering together. And then they wanted to stay after for a couple hours and play games and hang out. Mm-hmm. And that rhythm came from them, and they set that from them, and we were happy with that.
Our church has just changed the rhythm from having 2 services on Sunday morning to have one big large one again, because as they started the new year, people don't know each other. So together as a body, they said the new rhythm is we will just have one service on Sunday morning at 10:30 for a while, because we want to make sure as we launch into the new decade, we're launching as one rather than two. So it was something everyone's participating
came from
with.
people giving their responses, and then the leadership of the group took the responses from the people and said, you're asking for one service. So it can be done in different ways. Yeah.
So one other thing I just wanted to hit before we end is how to actually keep dancing when the music stops. And I think this is very important. This is part of where Megan was talking about last week. I think a little bit of, we live this 24/7, but other people go off to work, they get on a bus, they do this, they do that, they go visit their grandma, their dog gets sick. I don't have a dog. How do we actually do that? So let's just take just a couple minutes and hit that, because I think that's really important, that good times and bad times still have rhythms. If you watch a movie, during the bad parts, the music doesn't stop. There's a different...
It gets intense.
There's a different beat. There's a different rhythm. Yeah. But it's still life. It's still the same movie.
Yeah. So when we were thinking about it, we put together a list of how to live fully alive even when the music stops. So live fully alive is like a dance to the music. When the music stops, when the atmosphere or something changes, it might be something from us internally, or it might be something externally. So actions, ours or others, might not be up to our standard, and they might keep us from doing our rhythms, or we might just not follow through and keep up to our own desired future self standard. We could have these emotions that others have that affect us, or we could have our own negative emotions, for example. And Dan talked about the male and the female processing. Conflicts, internal conflicts, stress, or external conflicts, relationship issues can have a big effect on stopping or changing or stalling the beautiful music that goes on. When we have a betrayal or a rejection from someone, and somebody else externally does something that causes us not to trust, that has a big effect. It can very much shut you down and not allow you to show up and be the fully alive person that God made you to be. There can be interruptions, uncontrolled circumstances.
Like last week at 7:00 when we were doing the Q's Day, and suddenly the computer wouldn't work. Huge interruption. It took me 90 minutes to get over that. That was a major thing.
We call these uncontrolled circumstances that you can't really change and you can't make anything happen. So exchanges need to happen. You need to, in those moments, you say, okay, this is the reality of the moment. I wanted to have this rhythm. What am I going to exchange? What is a high priority? What is the most value for me right now? And you have to choose the thing that is the most appropriate in the morning. We can't always follow through on our rhythms when these external situations happen to us. I think sickness is another thing that hits us. We have the routine, we have the rhythm going, and then we get sick and we don't feel okay, or we have to have extra sleep, or we just don't feel motivated because physically we're not quite there. Very important. Sometimes our goals are way too big, and we have to break them down into smaller, doable steps. Or for me, I always have to give myself more time than I think I need, because the music stops because I thought I could do way more than I actually could do. And many times it's important to recalibrate and say, okay, is this actually the best rhythm? And for me, this is where accountability, meeting with Dan, meeting with some of my friends, some of my people that I have in place in my life that help me stay true to those things that are really important to me. And I think that's really important. So those are just some of the thoughts that we came up with.
I would love here at the end of this Q's Day for each of you to take a moment and write down what's one thing from this Tuesday webinar that you want to walk away with. What's one thing you want to remember? Maybe, David, you can come on and share one of your thoughts. You always have some gold nuggets. I'd love to hear some of that. And then, again, we can stay around for some questions. But I'd love to end this time together with just what is the one thing, the one takeaway? You've gone to the restaurant. There's a one takeaway you want to walk away with. What is it from this Tuesday webinar?
We'd love to hear from each of you. David, if you're able, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
Share one of
I'm here. Yeah, it's awesome. I love the rhythms. They're so freeing, I think. And I think my reminder is not to try and do too many things in one go. I think that can get drowned in trying to do 100 things at once, and actually it's better to do one or two things really well.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a one thing you'd like to put up?
What about for you guys? What's one thing you're going to remember from this Tuesday webinar?
Well, as I've been, this isn't just the moment, it's been coming in, but there's this passage that keeps going through my head in it's Matthew chapter 7, verse 14, but it talks about small is the gate, narrow is the path that leads to Zoe. And a lot of that has to do with the rhythms that come along. It isn't that God is saying, okay, I just only want a couple of you to come in. I'm going to make this gate really small, fat people I can't get through type of thing. It's more about the priorities, the focus. And so everything we've been trying to say is on this whiteboard, and I keep looking at it going, I think I have my rhythms set. I think I have maintained them, but I got to grow them. And for me, it's like, how do I take that gate and just widen that puppy a little bit? How do I take the little path and just grow it? That not only I can go through with ease and live with Zoe, but enable other people to get through it as well. So that's what's rattling around my brain.
For me, the thing that's been reinforced is I have a new awareness and a reminded awareness that I always take too big of chunks. And so I wanted to set mile markers to keep myself motivated. So kind of like I gamify my rhythms, my goals, so that I can have win on the way to the big win.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good. Hannah here has said that one of her takeaways is that learning to verbalize SMART goals, how that's really like a clarifying thing. And Megan has talked about how just sharing some of her thoughts has helped balance out her rhythms.
Oh,
great.
Nice.
Yeah, I think many of us are external processors. So that helps me so much to talk about what's going on. Then it's like, oh, that's it. Okay, now I can go for it.
Katie has one.
That's really good. Yeah, Katie's just talked about that freedom as well. And it's not the need to be perfect in her goals, but actually the mile markers that you've just talked about, Suzie, they're really an important part. So
well done.
I want to find that verse. Does anybody know what that verse is? I think it's Ephesians. I'm going to just look. Oh, Galatians 5:13, for those of you who want that reference. It is for freedom you've been called to live. So don't let yourself be yoked again by the yoke of slavery, burdened again by the yoke of slavery. Galatians 5:13. Thank you, Katie.
Well, thank you for joining us in this Tuesday. I think that you can go on and watch this over and over with the link you're there. We've just found out that people who signed up but didn't join, who register, actually can come on for the next 72 hours on that link and watch it. But also this recording and hopefully the other ones from the day will go into the course.
So we are able to stay on and answer any questions that any of you continue to have.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, God, for letting everything work.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I just want to do a little bonus here for those of you who are still on. And one of the things that I found very fascinating when we're thinking about motivation is one of the studies that I found had 10 types of motivation. And I thought there were only a couple. And it starts with intrinsic and extrinsic. So things from the inside and things from the outside. And then most of the others are a combination of the two. But there were quite a number of other ones that just stood out. And I want to just mention them because maybe they'll help you in your motivation to go for it a little bit as well. So there's internal and external. The third is social motivation. And these are people who are motivated by the social groups that are together. That definitely applies to me.
We have a friend out in Seattle that whenever there's a march about something, he's an activist. He's got to get involved there. He's motivated by the social movement.
Yeah, and this is why self-help groups work. This is why we're trying to help reinforce the fully alive revolution so that we can help each other and be motivated in this way. There's another one, competency. People are motivated by competency or learning. They're attracted to the process of gaining more.
Is that the one where it's like going to college because you know you'll get a diploma?
No, that one comes a little bit later. This
I didn't
is like
do that, so I don't know.
A process. There's one about expectancy motivation, the end goal. And I think this applies to those of you who see that future self, where you can get the picture of where you're going to be, and you have an expectation, and that going for that end goal actually motivates you. And then there's another one about attitude motivation. And this is this attitude, but I would call it influence motivation. And I think this is one that we have as well, that we are very motivated, for example, to do this course and to put out these resources for you and to motivate you because we want to have an influence about how you think, about how you feel. This week, really about your rhythms and what you're putting into place. There's another one called arousal motivation, and I would call it the ideal psychological self. So some people are motivated when they understand, for example, who their fully alive Zoe is, and then they're motivated to be in balance and put themselves in a space where they can really be fully alive and set themselves out to be in the zone of being the best version of yourself. There's another one. This is how we always thought that people were motivated either by fear or desire. And so fear, some people are motivated because they want to take direct action to avoid what the opposite would be, and that is a very high motivation for people. Achievement, this is the one you were trying to, that you get the degree, you get the certificate. By the way, everybody who completes this course, you will get a certificate of completion. Ooh. So for those of you who are motivated by that achievement, that's great. And then, of course, the incentive desire is motivation.
If anyone wants to have that list, can they send you an email and you'll just send it to them?
Yeah, just send me a note and I can send you that list, my small notes.
Suzie@Duzie.com, and she will send you that list. Very interesting. We had about an hour discussion over this list. I didn't agree with all of it, and then she convinced me that I do.
And we were just talking about how we are motivated, the internal and the external
I basically said one of those is mine, and she went through and showed me that at least 6 of them were mine. So it was very, very enlightening yesterday.
Yeah, it's a good process to go through if you want that little bonus.
Any other questions, thoughts before we've been at 1 minute, almost 1 minute, 1 hour, 12 minutes. So we can shut down here. But if there's anything else, we'd love to address it as we look at Land Your Rhythms here on Tuesday, Module 2.
We were also prepared to do a little snippet on spirit and creative. If anybody's interested in that,
I got really excited about the creative as I was preparing it, because one of the courses we're going to do in the future, hopefully near future, is how to live creatively.
One of Dan's favorite subjects. So I also love it.
I prepared a little bit of that today, but we'll get to it later.
Yeah. Anything else that's pressing from any of you who are on live with us? I do believe that those of you who have registered for this webinar who weren't able to make it in person, I think you can continue to write some notes in.
Yep.
We think that's the process. So
Yeah.
would love to hear about the creative. Okay, Megan wants to hear about it. You want to go for it, babe?
I can.
Yeah, just give your little snippet about creative
Little
for
snippet.
now. All right. Here you go.
This is a very little snippet, but we talked in the course about creative rhythms are putting two things together that normally don't go together. And that's one of the basic foundations of all creativity. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. It's basically this was, and you suddenly put them together. So when I think of our Teen Street themes, we've had, I think, 27 different themes at Teen Street. One of my favorites was the Secrets Revealed, and it had to do with a key. And I remember walking through a hardware and just looking for what could be the symbol for the year. And I saw this key, picture. And then I thought of Romans 3:5, where 3:5 and 6, where it talks about suffering develops perseverance, character, hope, and hope doesn't disappoint us. And I thought that's the key. That in the top of the key, there's the hole, and that's like Joseph. Joseph was in the pit, and we all have the pits. And then there was the circle around it that became the perseverance. Keep going. And then there was the shaft of the key that was the character, and how the character had to be straight and not crooked. And then there was the teeth, which was the hope that Joseph used to open up food and life for the world at the time. So again, I took a key and I took a concept that I wanted to teach and brought them together. For Christmas, I gave Joshua and Saskia a jar. We both did a jar of marbles. 923 marbles, I think, were in it. And it was the whole concept. It's a jar of marbles. What's that? But they now have a son, Dakota. Dakota has 923 weeks before he has his 18th birthday. And the idea was understand that every day you're losing your marbles. And so every week I challenge them to take out one, and that's one less week they have to spend with their son before his 18th birthday. And it just, again, two things together. We use
a reminder of the value of the moment.
Yeah, we use the hokey pokey oftentimes in our meetings to talk about put your whole self in. Don't just go partly for this, the whole. So it's silly song. We changed it up a little bit with new tune, but we always attach it to put your 100 self in. And magic. I've been working on a magic trick this week. I took it to church with me on Sunday. I didn't get a chance to share it, but I take magic trick every Sunday to church because I want to meet some of the young people. It's all about connection. So it's bringing two things together. And then I love the whole thing with the life cycle. Many people don't realize they can't rest because they don't create. I am a firm believer of this. When we create, no matter what we create, and if we create, realizing that everything we do can be for the glory of God. This time here, what I do next, fixing eggs, we can do everything for the glory of God. When we create for the glory of God, and it benefits people. So let me just take Suzie this morning. She made eggs, great eggs for me. She created eggs. She did it for the glory of God. God is pleased. He's given us those abilities. We're thankful for the food. It benefited me. I sat here as I was preparing to go live. I ate it. It was a benefit to me. There is personal satisfaction. When she eats, there's this wow joy, but when she creates it and it's good, there is this sense like God said, this is good. And then you're able to rest. And I believe the reason many people don't rest is because they're not having a satisfied life, because they're not creating for the benefit of man or from God. And so I've really been thinking a lot about this. I'm trying to develop this much more for the course on Living Fully Alive. But the question I was going to ask everyone and discuss was, how have your creative rhythms taken you to one of these areas? Taking you to
glory of God. What is the next one?
benefit to people,
Benefit to people.
personal satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just maybe just
And
leave that
rest.
with you, that's something to, when you're creating, whether it's drawing or whatever, how is this taking you around the circle? I know when I draw, even sometimes I'm drawing and it's tough. When I see it and I see it coming together, I can sit back and go, wow, this is good. And I actually can just chill out. There's
you
just
rest.
something that happens. I believe it's a cycle that God's put into place.
Yeah. So
Those are
any
just some
thoughts
nuggets.
about that?
So Katie's mentioned here, if you have any book recommendations about the creative rhythms or living a creative life.
There are several out there. Right now, they're not coming to my head. There was a great one on prayer, praying in color. Really, really good one on
Creative ways to pray.
creative ways to pray.
But it kind of like had a ripple effect to other areas as well. It's just a small paper book.
There was a book one time we read, The Creative Life. I don't remember who it's by. It was very good. There was another one years ago that came out called Addicted to Mediocrity, and it was the whole idea that living without creativity and what that does to us as a person and society. I can pull together maybe a book list on some of the creative books and resources.
Thanks, Katie, for that call out.
There's a great book on the accidental creative. Matter of fact, if you go on,
very good one.
There's a great resource online called Productivity Game, and it's a guy who takes business books for the most part, and he makes the business book into a 7 to 10 minute video, and he took the accidental creative and made it into, I think, about an 8-minute video. So that's on Productivity Game. Some really insightful things on creativity, not from a Christian perspective, but definitely truth from God is all over it. So
here's the accidental creative. It's by Todd Henry. This one probably had the highest influence on me to help me really identify. And it talks about, Megan, you're going to love this, but it talks about structuring your life in a way to give the creative juices the space they have. So you take care of your basic needs, the things you have to do. It has to do with scheduling and planning and thinking through. Very, very practical book.
And years ago, Rob Bell did a video. It's on YouTube, but it was called Everything is Spiritual. And he spends probably the first 15 or 20 minutes of that video talking about creativity and the God of creativity. Louis Giglio put out a video called Indescribable and How Great Thou Art. Both of those were God creativity, our creativity. There are a lot of resources out there and a wide range of thoughts. So thanks, Katie, for asking that.
And Megan's just said that she had an interesting insight about the difference between rest and sleep, and how that was a new insight. So that was really good.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks for that reminder. They are different.
I mean, it is true. Sometimes when I sleep, I don't rest. My brain does not shut down. I wake up with some great things, but I don't rest. There are some times, though, when I complete something, like in a few moments when we're done with this, I'll just go sit on the couch and enjoy the moment. That this was a great, successful webinar for me. It was for the glory of God. It benefited you. It benefited us. There's a lot of satisfaction, and I can just go. I very rarely sit on my couch. When I'm sitting on the couch, I truly am at rest. And I know once this webinar is done, I can shut off my lights. I can shut down the computer, and I can just go. We have a couch that we call it the flying carpet, and it's very relaxing. You sit there, and I'll be able to go there because this was rest giving in my life.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. Megan, Katie, David, you're still on with us. Mark, for joining us as well. And for those of you who have joined on the replay, and this replay will be found also inside the course for those who are not able to do it within the 72 hours. But this particular platform allows you to the button you clicked on to see it. If you want to watch any part of it, you can go for it.
So I bless you to live fully alive by landing your rhythms this week. May you have peace, not anxiety.
Yeah.
May you find success. May you count those successes, and may you be able to, whatever that is. I don't know what that is, but within rhythm, there's the aha moment. May you be able to live in that this week. For the glory of God, for the benefit of man, for your personal satisfaction, and that you may rest.
And thank you, David, for helping call out the questions and the comments and allowing us not to miss anything. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you who are on this journey with us to live your fully alive Zoe self.
God bless.
God bless you. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great week. Have a great everyday life.
I've been saying that every day. Have a happy day. Have a happy every day.
That's it.
That's it.
We're loving
life
life
every day and seeing good days.
All right. Bye.
Bye.